In 2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this wonder twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as tomorrow's legends.
Flash, are you okay? I've never seen you look so angry.
I need to ask you something. Last show, when you were smashing everything, did that make you feel better?
Yeah, totally. I love taking it out on stuff.
Can I borrow your hammer for a second?
Okay. Here you go. Whoa.
And now, here are your hosts, the fleet-footed Flash and his hammer-swinging partner, Harley Quinn.
Whew. Thanks, Harley. That does feel better.
See? I told you.
Oh my god. Welcome, Legendaires, to Tomorrow's Legends. We're here to cover Season 3, Episode 9, our mid-season finale, titled, God, I hate even saying this word, Beebo, the God of War. I am the Flash.
And I'm Harley Quinn.
Hello, Legends.
And hello, Gideon.
Hello.
Yeah, well, if you don't have any idea after that intro, Flash is quite sour with the way our show ended for the season. How about you?
I think we switched places. Not that I'm giving this episode a super high rating. However, I think I suspended my disbelief slightly more than you did.
Oh, man. I might have to just take on a new moniker for this episode alone and just be Reverse Flash or even Zoom.
Flash. Oh, dear.
Man.
Well, that bad. You're the Black Flash. All right.
Yeah. Well, let's kick it off with your impressions of the show. You've got a much higher positive outlook, so let's start it off with that.
Well, I tried to focus on the positive stuff, you know,
Okay.
Surprisingly.
Jeez, we are really switching here.
I know, right? All right, well, I gave this episode 7.5 missed opportunities for a Ghostbusters reference. I was very disappointed that we didn't get an overt Ghostbusters reference other than the appearance of what happened on the screen. Mm-hmm. But anyway... Oh man, I will say that the first bit of this episode, it really took a lot of suspension of disbelief. I mean, it was funny, but it was almost like pretty annoying at the same time. Like I kept going back and forth between the two. Uh-huh. So I don't know, but it really turned around for me when the Darks showed up, and then they had to adapt their plan because I liked that whole sequence of scenes. I thought it was very funny, and then I really enjoyed Sharpe actually collaborating with the team. I thought that went over pretty well. Mm-hmm. I wasn't really surprised to see that Jax is gone. I mean, kind of like we were speculating. I mean, what was he gonna do? So I don't know. We'll see how they handle him the rest of the season, if he's gone, or if he comes back, or what they're really gonna do. So, but I was actually happy to see Constantine at the end there. I'm curious how he's gonna be able to help our team and how this is all gonna work out.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like we're kind of shuffling on a couple of our characters, and they're bringing in one new one, maybe more. We'll have to see. But yeah, I mean, your points, I could say a lot now, but I'm sure we're going to talk about Sharpe, and we're going to talk about how they let Jax go and things like that. So I'm with you on some of those points. So we'll definitely discuss them in a little bit.
Great.
In more depth.
All right. Well, I have an inkling your rating is not great, so why don't you go ahead and give your impression?
Yeah, well, God, I don't want to sound so sour on our show, not our mid-season finale, so I'm glad we actually had a week off, because if we had to record this right after the show, right after the first watch, wow, it would have been a reverse Flash for sure, but
oh dear.
I had over a week to kind of go through it and watch it a second time and try to find some highlights and some things. But Let me put it this way. If you really wanted me to rate the whole episode together, it's not going to be good. So to not end this season on a full sour note, I'm going to split it into two halves. And the first half, which is all that stuff to do with Beebo, for me, it was so awful and so disappointing. It's the worst our show has ever done. I didn't find it funny for a second. It wasn't smart. It wasn't witty. For me, it was simply just dumb. I felt really let down from the writers and the directors, especially after how amazing of a job they did for the last crossover episode. So for this first stuff, and we'll talk a little bit more about it, but this whole Beebo section, I'm giving this a 3.
Oh dear! Wow,
that is it.
That is like terrible television.
It is terrible television. I understand that if anyone were to come into our show at this point and watched it, I'd totally understand them shutting the show off, saying, "Oh my God, this is garbage." I even understand people that, and I've seen online and even on our Facebook page, people that are wanting to quit our show. An episode like this gives them enough ammo to justify that. It was horrible. And I know our show is sillier. It's the more fun show out of the DC universe here, or the Arrowverse, I should say. But I just felt that this was way beyond those boundaries, and it's almost insulting to have to witness that. I felt bad for the actors and people involved. Like, could you imagine, yes, I got a part. I'm going to be a Viking on Legends of Tomorrow. It's going to be so much fun. And then you realize that that's what you have to play against is this blue talking. Anyway, we're going to get more into it. That's the first half. The second half saved the show almost. Barely, kind of. The problem was that I found it was a little too late, because I was looking at the clock. I said, okay, on my second viewing, when does the show start to get better? And it was about the 35-minute mark out of a 42-minute show. So that didn't leave a lot of room for it to improve on. And what I found was I was so frustrated by the first half that it was hard for me to feel anything, to get any emotions going. That poor Jax, when he left, he kind of left on a sour note, where it should have been touching and a little more emotional. It was just really, really tough. But upon my second watching, it was a little bit better. I felt the emotions a little more strongly, but that was mostly because I actually fast-forwarded through the first half just to get to the good stuff. So, yeah, it's a real mixed bag for me, and I'm gonna try to talk more positively about it as we go through the show. This is just my impressions, and I'm allowed to have an opinion. So the second half, I'm only going to give a 6. So if you average the two out, we're sitting at about a 5 overall. This, to me, remember every season there's been that one episode that I've really, really not enjoyed?
Yes.
I would go watch those ones 100 times over before I watch this one again.
I think the last 2 seasons, wasn't it the Jonah Hex episodes that you didn't like?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right. So, anyway, guys, I'm sorry for all of that. Flash doesn't like to be the party pooper, but I really can't accept how awful that was. But we'll talk more about it.
That's okay. We'll get into it.
We will. I'm glad you're laughing and enjoying this.
Hey, one of us has to be positive, right? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get into some news. We do have a few news items to report, so let's do that.
We interrupt this podcast for a special report.
All right, so the big question that we were waiting for an answer for was, when is our show returning? Because it has not been announced yet. Well, they finally did announce things. We're not coming back till February, but we are on a new night and a new time slot. Harley, you've got the goods on that. Why don't you fill us in?
I do. All right. Well, the CW announced that DC's Legends of Tomorrow is going to return on February 12th. So that's 4 weeks after the rest of its sister shows. And if you can do the math, that makes sense because I believe we have 4 less episodes.
That kind of works out.
So I think it works out. Whether or not it was intentional, whether or not it's planned, it actually does work out. So However, the bad news is that our return is going to mean a 2-month hiatus for Supergirl. So Legends are actually going to take over the 8 p.m. Monday night time slot for 9 weeks. And then we're going to have our season finale on April 9th. And then after that, the Girl of Steel is going to return in her original time slot on April 16th. And then they'll run uninterrupted for those that are watching Supergirl until it finishes its season on June 18th. So
yeah, so it's a bit strange. So we're going to get like 4 episodes of Supergirl, then it's going to go on its hiatus, and Legends is going to take over their time slot until we run through to the end of our season, and then Supergirl comes back. Which is kind of weird, because that means Supergirl, I'm guessing, will no longer be connected timeline-wise with the rest of the shows, because it's going to be finishing way late behind the rest of them.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if this is something, like I said, they planned, or if they're taking into consideration now with like writing and production. I don't know. I don't know how much of this has already been filmed, so I guess we'll just have to see.
Yeah, and the reasoning behind that hasn't really been released. At least I can't find anything on it. My guess is that it has something to do with ratings and viewer numbers. I think they're maybe mixing it up to see if they can get more viewers on Monday Night for Legends, or see if things work. I don't know. This is just my hypothesizing as to what they might be doing, because I don't like Supergirl and Legends. I don't think their numbers are spectacular. I think they're like 1.9 million or something, where Flash is still up in the 3 millions, and I'm not sure where Arrow is, but I think we're on the lower end of viewer numbers, so maybe they're just shaking up. Maybe it's other TV shows that are coming in for winter season that they're going to open up time slots for. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But anyway, we're coming back February 12th?
February 12th.
That's all you guys need to know. And
Yep.
that means that's when me and Harley are going to return too. So quite a break for us. We'll have to see if we do anything over that long break. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Let's get into our show. Where are we going to start off?
All right. I wanted to kick this off with maybe a little bit of theorizing before we get into the main talking points of the episode. I thought that might be a little fun, since some of the main points of the episode maybe we didn't like as much.
Okay.
So Nate and Jax definitely this time around have a very pointed conversation about how they keep running into different versions of themselves or different relations of themselves throughout time.
Yeah, that I was actually going to use one of these for the quotes of the week this week, but now that I saw you have it in here, I thought, okay, we're just going to talk about it. So that's, yeah. They've been bringing it up. This is what, the 3rd episode now that they've brought this up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. So I'm thinking it's got to be connected back to Mollis somehow. I just can't kind of wrap my head around what the end game might be, which I kind of like because it's not predictable, or at least not for me, you know? And so I'm not seeing how it ties into a bigger plan yet. I mean, they definitely want us to take note about it. So, and we know that Mollis kind of like exists all throughout time. Like, so there's got to be a tie-in. Like, he's got to be manipulating events somehow. I don't know quite what the end game might be, unless he's trying to change all of history or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's got to mean something, because we were talking about this last time we brought it up, that if viewers haven't picked up on it yet, they are writing it into the dialogue for our characters to make sure that we take notice that, hey, we're all running into younger versions of ourselves. What is going on? So the fact that they actually are realizing that and taking note, as you said, it's got to mean something, but they have danced around it so lightly that we still don't have a clue. We don't know what's going on with it. And the way you put it, our end game.
Yeah, exactly.
What is Mollis's plan? We've got how many episodes to go? 8 episodes more?
Yeah, there's 17, and that was episode 9.
Yeah, so wow, are they going to wrap things up fast? I mean, I guess a lot can happen in 8 episodes, but I mean, this episode, and we'll talk about it a little bit later for sure, this was our first real, not quite we didn't quite see Mullis, but we definitely heard him on his own and not through Dark's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
you know,
we will get to that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, who knows? It's interesting that our characters are definitely picking up on what's going on, but it's funny that that's all they've done. They've just kind of acknowledged it, but then don't really carry through with any investigation of it.
I know, yeah. And like they keep saying, oh, this can't be a coincidence, but they haven't done any further investigation. So maybe in the next couple of episodes, depending on what we run into or what we see. I mean, we've kind of already gotten a hint with what Constantine said at the very end of our episode. I mean, we're thinking that next week it's got to, at least in some way, shape, or form, involve Sarah, right? Because that was what he said, that the demon knows Sarah's name. So I was like, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if if we're going to somehow tie into her past or another relative of hers or, you know, something like that.
Right.
So
yeah, interesting.
I don't know. We'll see.
I've got something I want to run by you before we get on to your next note here. Something that I've written down here. And yeah, Flash is running by the seat of his pants again tonight because I didn't get any notes done properly. They're all handwritten and not on our official document here.
It's okay.
This is something I was looking at, okay, because I think people on Facebook kind of question it as well, is that they went back to 1992 and there is young Stein again. And everyone was like, wait a second, young Stein, 1992, when was the last time we saw him? Wasn't that the 70s that we saw him?
They said 87.
87 was last time. Okay, see, there's so much here that doesn't make sense. And so this is what I wrote down. 1992, Stein is young still. Lily is 5 years old, meaning she was born in 1987.
Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't make any sense because Stein says he last saw Jax in 1987. Well, the last time we saw them, he was still in college and trying to get with Clarissa, let alone being married and already pregnant with a kid on the way. So to me, the timeline is messed up. How does that make sense? And then when I figured out...
We saw him later. We saw him later. We saw him in an episode after that. Because remember, because he meets himself at some point, and that's how he talks himself into having a kid. Martin Stein literally talks his younger self into having a child because he says he needs to pay more attention to Clarissa. Wasn't that the Einstein episode?
Oh, you're right. I remember that. I don't remember him talking him into having a kid. I remember him...
Well, because he said you need to, like, pay more attention or be more involved or something. And basically he took that to mean let's start a family or whatever. Because that's how he ended up with a daughter that he didn't know about because he never had kids.
But I took that more as just pay attention to Clarissa. She's the love of your life. Like that was like his farewell to himself at the end of that episode. I took it more as like, take care of Clarissa. She means everything to you. Life and all the school and knowledge doesn't mean anything without her. That's what I recall. I don't remember anything about having a kid or anything like that.
Well, yeah, because that's what ends up happening. Like, I mean, that's not what he intended. He was just trying to say, don't lose her, don't drive her away. But his younger version kind of took that to heart. And then instead of saying, no, I'm too scared to start a family because I don't want to turn into my father, he agreed to start a family when Clarissa brought it up. It would be my guess, because then the next time that Stein goes home, all of a sudden he has a daughter. That was that whole revelation, whenever that happened at the end and towards the end of season 2, I think.
Okay, but didn't we all deduce that Lily is an anachronism herself?
Yeah, because he created it by telling his younger self what you just said that he told him.
Okay, you're clearing this all up. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. I'm just wondering, because I think there's a lot of people on the same page as me that were a little confused by all of this. The other point that I wanted to throw in there, though, is that when I did the math, it turns out that in this episode, he's actually 42 years old. He sure as heck doesn't look 42 to me.
Yeah, I think that was another thing. It's the same thing with Agent Smith. We're just gonna have to hand wave it. They're not gonna get like 4 different actors to play Martin Stein. Just like they're not gonna get 4 different actors to play Agent Smith so they can properly age him.
So you're asking me to be a little hand wavy on that.
Yeah, I'm asking everybody to be hand wavy on that.
But I mean, when Jax went back to say goodbye and we saw Clarissa and little 5-year-old Lily, Clarissa didn't look like she was in her 40s. She looked like she was 25. So I don't know. It's a little bit confusing, a little bit mixed up. I think the amount of timelines back and forth thing is kind of made that part hard to really track.
Yeah. I mean, it is, but
all right, cool. Well, you straightened some of it out anyway.
Okay, well that's good.
Let's move on.
There's not much I think. Yeah, there's not much I think we can do about the casting.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Next point.
All right. Well, let's just knock this out of the way because it's a very small point. But let's talk about Leo.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You can say which. There's part of this I was actually saving for a nitpick, but yeah, we can hash some of it out here for sure.
Oh, well, you can tell me to stop whenever you need me to stop. But all right, so I don't know that I'm sold on this version of Leonard Snart. Like, part of me kind of likes it, and part of me kind of hates it. I mean, like the little bit with the puppet, it was kind of funny. It was kind of weird though. I don't know. I did like the different reactions of all the characters to be pretty funny, and I just loved that it was very in character for each of them, like each of their reactions. So like Amaya just calls him out. She's like, "What? This is wrong. Like, why are you doing this?" Mm-hmm. And then of course Ray asks a science question that no one has the answer to. And then, you know, Nate's just Nate. He made me laugh. It just seemed like something he would do. And then of course, you know, you've got Rory beating the crap out of it, which I did find pretty amusing. Mostly because that's what I wanted to do at that point. Oh, but I mean, I felt bad for Jax because this is the point where he puts away the puppet because he's so lost. I just felt so bad for him.
Well, I'll agree with you on one thing here is that each person's reaction to that type of therapy, I guess, is where the amusement part of it was. So taking that out of it for sure. I'm still going to save what I really wanted to say for my nitpick, but yeah.
Okay.
But I will agree with you. Yeah, no, their reactions were entertaining, and it was very suitable for each character and how they would deal with sitting down to that. Yeah. Well, I mean, the weird thing I think was, because we don't find this out until later in the episode, but the whole reason that he's doing this is that he's just trying to work through his own grief when he lost his Mickey, as he calls him. Yeah, Mickey.
Yep. So he's just trying to fix our Mick and help everyone, quote unquote, work through their grief so that he can work through his own. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was like, that's interesting. So yeah. I'll take it.
Well, we definitely see that later in the episode when he's talking to Mick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we talk about Beebo, the god of war?
Oh, that's a sin every time you say that, but sure.
I have a feeling it's going to get said a lot more throughout the episode. All right. Well, I'm going to try and go in chunks here.
Okay.
So the first bit, and we sort of already talked about this, is that Martin Stein returns. He's 25 years younger, and he is our anachronism this week.
Didn't see that coming, so that was a bit of a surprise.
I didn't either, and can I just say that his Hanukkah sweater was hilarious.
And I'll give props to the actor, and that young actor they have playing him does a really good job.
He does.
You know, he's got the look, he's got the what do you call it? when someone has these little ticks and twitches and different things that they have. What do they call it? Idiosyncrasies, and there's another word for it, I can't think of it. But he has it down pat. He's actually does a good job. I guess playing him 3 times, he's been able to work on it. So yeah, good job.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought he did a good job. I really enjoyed the opening scene, like when he gets the last Beebo doll using the green bow and arrow. So he had the arrow music playing in the background, and
Totally
it was so
pick
great.
up on that, yeah.
I know. As soon as I heard it, I was like, "Oh, this is fantastic!"
Well, it's just funny how he kind of deduced the whole, the angles and the speed and adjusted for the wind and whatever he was saying, and it actually worked. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I know. Well, because I totally thought he missed, because I thought he was aiming for the doll, and then you kind of see the whole thing play out. But that was pretty funny. Well, I was kind of amused, I guess, by as he was calling all the people chasing him barbarians, and then he ends up being chased by real barbarians, unfortunately for him.
In a sense,
It was kind of a cool segue. We actually got to see the anachronism happen, so that's not something we've seen before.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting how it happened, because he just got enveloped in a gold light and kind of disintegrated, and in front of all the people chasing him too.
Yeah, he sort of just disappeared.
Yeah, so that's the first time we've actually seen that happening, like somebody being time displaced.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty interesting to see, I guess, how it all works, quote unquote.
Yeah. As to why, we don't know yet. Why is he the only one that gets displaced? Like, what's going on there? It's kind of, because we just watched him die the previous week. Why is he being time displaced as a younger version of himself? Like, what? It's strange. That's what we don't know. Why this is all happening the way it is.
Nope, exactly.
Do you have any theories on that?
On why it's happening? No, well, not exactly. I mean, we know that it's supposed to be following the pattern, this, golden ratio, golden spiral pattern or whatever. So are we supposed to believe that all of the anachronisms have already happened, or they're still in the process of happening? Because I guess it feels like this was happening like at the time, whereas the other ones kind of felt like they had happened when they broke time. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay. But as to why, I don't have any good theories.
No. Well, that's the big question they've kind of left dangling over us all season, and haven't given us enough to really feed on and try to theorize or anything.
No, and I'm very curious, and I would love an explanation, but I don't have any good explanations myself.
Yeah. Boy, we're just letting everybody down. Usually we're full of theories and stuff.
I know. I take it you don't have any theories either.
No, that's kind of why I asked you.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
well, we're coming up short.
I don't know. I'm just hoping in discussing it, I might, things might click, but nothing really is for. Like this is where I'm confused. Is why would a young Stein suddenly be time displaced? Why? Like, he just died. What's the connection? Why would? I mean, the only thing I can see connecting right now is, so far, a few of our characters have gone back and either seen younger versions of themselves or seen old ancestors. So Stein has not only seen an ancestor of his, but now we're seeing a younger version of himself. So twice he's been affected by whatever's going on.
I know.
And I mean, I don't know. I mean, he died in present time, but in past tense, he's seeing a younger version of himself. So it's like, so far, half our team has done that. So I don't know. You know what? I'm running in circles myself. Sorry, guys. This is a tough one to really try to figure out. I would love to hear in feedback form what our listeners are thinking. Like, what's going on with this whole time displacement stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
All right, yeah.
Well, the next point I kind of had, and I don't know how much we really need to get into this, but the whole point of our anachronism was that the Vikings were basically worshiping the Beebo doll as their god. And so instead of leaving North America, they actually stayed because they were feeding Beebo's quote unquote hunger for war, as Leif's sister was interpreting it.
Yeah, and then we see some real quick clips, both from Agent Sharpe and from Gideon. Like we saw images and stuff of what the world now looks like because the Vikings never left. And I found some of it, like it was fun, but it was also a little bit past the hand wavy scene. Like the Vikings have now taken over, and it's called New Valhalla. And the Statue of Liberty is a statue of a Viking. And I'm thinking, how does any of that make sense? It doesn't connect. Like, why would there be a Viking statue in the? Anyway, it was fun, but on the second viewing, I just thought I don't get some of those things, but they were just having fun, so that's okay.
Yeah, that's why I kind of said it took a lot of suspension of disbelief for the first half.
Yeah.
Oh man! But speaking of halves, man, we have Jax. He's really struggling this episode with losing his other half.
Yeah, well, they haven't really had time to grieve yet. None of the team has, and this anachronism level 12 pops up, and they have to jump into action. So that's where Sarah gives them the whole speech about take your feelings, put them in a box. Put the box away for now. We'll deal with it later. And
yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's a great line, and she's able to do that, but it's just really tough. And then for Jax, he's suffering the loss of his other half, like really truthfully his other half, someone that he shared a psychic connection with and his body with, essentially.
Yeah.
So he's had no time, and then to go from that, not being able to grieve, to suddenly running into a younger Stein, can you imagine how that would mess your emotions up?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you kind of put it that way, it's no surprise he ends up leaving at the end of the episode.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
So, but we can dive kind of into his storyline a little bit more later, because I've got some more about his decisions that I want to talk about later.
Yeah.
But let's finish out this Beebo stuff. So,
oh God, can we please?
Yeah. So we get an interesting thing when Agent Sharpe ends up calling Sarah. So we don't have our handy-dandy Mr. Rip Hunter to provide his 60 seconds of timey-wimey exposition anymore.
Right.
So instead, we kind of had a situation which I thought was very interesting. So when Ava Sharpe calls Sarah, she ends up using the phrase a Beebo Day miracle instead of a Christmas miracle.
Right.
So this tells us two things. Well, sort of. The first thing is that I think the Time Bureau has to be firmly located at a point in time. I'm going to go ahead and throw out 2017. I'm just assuming present day. How do you feel about that?
Okay, yeah, this is something I was thinking about because, and it's interesting, you're bringing it up from a different point that I was going to bring it up from. I think because the Time Bureau, just like the Oculus at the end of time, the Time Masters had, they were able to watch everything that happened in time, and because I believe they were at the very end of time or something like that. Yeah. I think things affect, like, as long as the timeline and history stays a certain course, at the end of the timeline, they call things and name things and describe things the way it lands. So I think because that anachronism happened back in time, before 2017 or whenever the Time Bureau is, it's still, it rippled through time and has affected everything. So to anybody in the future from that change is now going to think it's Beebo Day. Mm-hmm. But what see, because you're saying you think they're firmly located at a point in time. So this is what I'm trying to wrap my head around, because what I was noticing is that 3 times we saw her open the portal to get on the ship or go back again, and no matter what was going on in the past, the Vikings took over North America and everything, the whole world has changed. She comes through the portal and it's still a regular looking office.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw it a couple times. So I was like, wait a second. So all these changes, everything that's happening physically in the world is still not affecting the Time Bureau, because they still have a regular business office, people walking around in suits. So they're not being affected. And then you throw in this thing, now wait a second, customs and beliefs and all that were affected because she said Beebo de Miracle.
She did.
So how do we put those two together? How do we... I want to argue that I don't think they might be in 2017, but I still think they are outside of the timeline themselves, in a sense, where like physically outside of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I would like some more information on that. So the reason that I was thinking they were located somewhere in time was because, like, when the historical record was rewritten, to me that kind of like ripples up and it was affecting Sharpe, like, directly. I mean, but to your point, if they're outside of time like they were at the Oculus at the end of time, that could still technically happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just got the feeling when they first introduced them in 2017, especially since they go and visit the building, it just felt like it was there, like whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I keep going back to that. But that's just my personal thought.
Well, okay. So now that you've made that point, you're totally bang on correct there. They physically have a building, their office, their headquarters, that's there in 2017. That's when Rip built it. That's where it is. But I think once you're within the building, there's probably some type of time-displaced barrier or something or other. So within the building, within their main office, they are not affected by time.
That'd be interesting.
They're not affected by everything going around them, because, I mean, obviously when this season kicked off, there was dinosaurs running around. The world was all changed. It was overgrown with jungle and everything. And, stuff was running around. But yet here was the Time Bureau's building still standing. And on the inside, perfectly clean office building, like nothing was going on.
I mean, that's a good point.
Yeah. But to call back to what you said, like she catches herself saying Beebo de Miracle instead of Christmas Miracle. And then her and Sarah kind of figure that out. And then did you notice later in the episode, as soon as dark arrives as Odin and the Vikings decide to stay, she immediately says, hey, it's Odin Day celebrations. So like it affected her instantly.
It did, which I thought was curious.
Yeah.
So, and I think they do there is a throwaway line, but I think it's after this comment, the Beebo Day comment, because Sarah's like, man, this anachronism is cementing fast. So she even kind of like acknowledges that. So I think this is still going to have to tie back into Mollis somehow. Otherwise, like, because this kind of defies all the rules we've already established.
Okay.
Of how things like ripple through time and have to take time to cement and all of that sort of stuff. Because you're right, it happened instantly. And I also thought that was very curious.
Well, because they're way back, like 1,000. They're in the year 1000 AD.
Yeah.
So for it to ripple through time in 2017, that instantly, it like you said, it's countering everything they had already established about time taking time to cement.
Exactly.
But certain things seem to change immediately. Yeah. I wonder if it has something to do with the anachronisms, because normal things happening in time, like if they went back in time and killed Caesar or whatever, and the whole Roman, like that would take time to ripple through. But it seems like an anachronism, when an anachronism is involved, things are instantly changed.
which is kind of why that's still leading me back to Mollis being involved somehow, even though they're saying the anachronisms were caused by the legends breaking time. But I think them breaking time has something to do with Mollis's crack of time into reality that we end up seeing. But we'll get to that.
Boy. Okay.
All right. Let's move on.
Yeah.
that was a good discussion, though.
Yeah. Well, we're starting to feel like there's a couple other TV shows that present a lot of questions, and we haven't gotten any answers yet.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So the other thing I had about Sharpe and Sarah, I actually really enjoyed the two of them working together. There's definitely a reluctant partnership forming. I think they're also trying to set up an actual ship, quote unquote.
Did I not call that in the season
did.
premiere?
You did. And I'm not going to lie, I just kind of thought you were a little crazy. And then I saw this episode and I was like, crap.
Yeah, you could see it in their eyes, the way they looked at each other.
100%. Yeah, I agree. You called it.
Like, I think Sarah looked at Sharpe the same way she looked at Alex in the crossover when Alex said, "No, I have a girlfriend."
Yes.
It was that same kind of look. So yeah.
It was, because she said, "I'm not the husband type."
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, but yes, I did enjoy them working together. This was a much more likable side of Sharpe, where she actually started sympathizing with her team and kind of owning up to how nasty she was before, and actually going against some of the Time Bureau's rules and regulations to help her team out. I liked seeing the transition, that she's starting to understand that things happen, like what the legends are doing and going through time, things happen that are out of their control, and she's starting to understand, and you can't follow a rule book. It just doesn't work in these type of circumstances.
Yep. And I do believe that I called that eventually the two of them would have to work together.
You did.
By the two of them, I mean the legends and the Time Bureau. So I think we've got Sharpe kind of coming over to our side. So I think eventually the whole Time Bureau, Director Bennett and all, are going to see that they actually need the legends and that we all have to work together to defeat Mollis. So.
Yes, that could be definitely a good pull for down the road.
Yep. All right. Well, let's finish off Beebo here. I enjoyed Leo saving the day before Rory was burned alive. This was when he discovers the doll and everybody kind of realizes that they're there to steal Beebo.
Okay, where the scenes were starting to get entertaining. Every time that darn doll would speak up, it ruined the scene, and it just, like I said in my opening monologue, it was just too much, way over the top, that I couldn't laugh. I couldn't find it funny. When Mick burned the thing out in mid-flight through the air, oh my God, did I laugh.
Yeah, I think everyone secretly cheered when he roasted Beebo.
Yeah.
We're just like, yes, the doll is gone.
Yeah. I do have more to say about it, but that's for later.
Yeah, all right. Well, we're just going to move on from that. I just liked that little scene where Leo put out the pyre, real quick. I just thought it was cool.
Yeah, that was a cool scene. Yeah, definitely. I mean, even surprised Mick, and then he kind of gave him the nod and the thumbs up, he saved him, so it was good.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the second bit about Odin Day.
Okay.
Now, this is a twist I was not expecting. I was not expecting Damien Dark to show up. I was not expecting him to show up dressed as Odin / Thor. Anyway.
But why? Why is he showing up at this point in time? Did he know the legends were there? What would have him suddenly showing up then?
That remains the question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Why is he always showing up at the right / wrong time?
Oh my God. I don't know. Mollis?
It all, exactly.
Yeah.
It all has to be interconnected. It all comes back to the same point. Mollis.
Because it just seems way too coincidental.
Exactly. It's very coincidental. Oh, man. I did find it amusing, though, that was Ray's original plan and that everyone was like, well, that'll never work.
Yeah.
And then here they come.
I have to say here, though, that when he first showed up and wearing the helmet and everything, he looked ridiculous. I thought that you could have did a better costuming job on Dark. He looked better later when he was sitting on the throne kind of thing, and just had his long hair. Then he looked a little better, but on his moment of arrival, I thought, oh my god, you look so ridiculous.
He did. Yeah, he looked pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. It's like they borrowed costuming from the local playhouse or something, and because they ran out of money from the crossover.
I mean, let's be real, they probably did.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we learned an interesting tidbit also from Sharpe. She's our new Rip Hunter, I guess. But Rip went to prison. And after he went to prison, the Time Bureau, they can't keep the Darks in check. They don't understand how their magic works. There's nothing that they can do against them. And now, to top it all, Grodd is traveling through history, making a giant mess of things. We saw a nice little clip of that from Gideon.
What a crazy little throwaway thing to just add in, like just toss in there. Oh, by the way, Grodd's traveling through time and screwing things up. Next. Yep. What? Like, oh, that's massive.
Yep. Yeah. That's kind of what I said, like, because I think we theorized about this on the episode where Grodd showed up. And then we realized that, I think that was the Vietnam episode, right? Where at the end, like, Dark basically takes them to start traveling through time. And yeah, we're like, well, how are they going to do this? And I think this is how they're going to do it, is just like little mentions, like little clips. Oh, Grodd is destroying the Great Wall of China. Oh, Grodd is over here doing this. Mm-hmm. Because, it's a giant CG ape that they don't have the budget for.
Yeah, so this is what we're going to get. But I agree. It's a big, massive thing to just kind of plop in there and be like, oh, here, look. Here's this. Yeah.
But anyway, so because of all of this, the Time Bureau, I don't know if they're like cutting their losses or what they're doing, but they're not going to back up the Legends at all. They're stretched too thin as it is. And they also, like I said, they don't understand the Dark's magic. So there's nothing they can do against them.
Well, no. I mean, what is the Time Bureau? It's just regular people with fancy watches that can open portals to anywhere in time. But what are they? They're just regular people, so they go undercover and they try to do what they can, but against magic, against superpowers, against demons, they're powerless. They can't do anything.
Exactly, and I think that's the whole point. And that's why they need to learn to work with the Legends, because they need help.
Well, and that's what Sharpe is realizing. That's what she's finally coming to. And that's why she was so much softer and the edge was gone when she showed up. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, and I really liked her this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, here's the point in the episode that really turned it around for me. And I loved with how it started with Sarah and the Legends team, like, telegraphing their plan and how the scenes would play out. Like, I loved the editing. I loved that they, like, acted out what would happen with how it would go, and then we actually got to see the result at the very end.
Yeah, it was fun, but you have to admit, and I'm sure most viewers, everyone, that moment when Dark snaps Sarah's neck, did that not stop your heart for just a second?
Just a second, yeah.
I mean, if they had to let more than half a beat pass after that, because they immediately cut back to the Waverider, oh yeah, no, that won't work. If they had to let that drag on for just a moment, like, I don't know about for you if they did commercial break or something, but if it had to just dragged on for a moment and allowed that unbelievable shock to set in, that would have been a huge emotional moment right there. But it was
it could have been, yeah.
It was pretty fast, which made it a little more on the comical side of things. And then you once that happened, then you're kind of realizing, oh, okay, now I know what they're doing, because they did it 2 or 3 times. They kind of through. But
they did.
I know me and Patty Spivot, we both gasped when that happened.
Yeah, I was like, wait, no. And then I don't think there was a commercial break there. They immediately cut back to the Waverider. Zari's like, that's not going to work.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Where did Dark get control over lightning from? What is that all about?
I have no idea. I don't know. I have no idea where it came from. I don't know why he can do it all of a sudden. I don't know if it had to do with the staff he was holding. All I got is Wallace. I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I couldn't figure anything out either, why he suddenly has power over lightning. Other than to act out the part of Odin, I'm like, where's that coming from? Could Nora be giving that to him? I don't know.
I don't know, but I thought Thor was the god of thunder, and
Thor's
Odin
the god
was
of
the
thunder.
All-Father.
Yeah, well, Thor's the god of thunder. Odin is Thor's father, but I think Odin has the same power over...
Does he?
Yeah, similar power, I believe. That's why he gave it to Thor. I don't know for sure. We'll have to get someone to clarify that, but...
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a question. So,
yes.
back to these little scenes that were very quick.
Yeah, well, I love that they use Nate as the distraction. And then in the real version, Dark does exactly what you would expect him to do. He uses his powers to stop the arrow that Sarah shoots. But I did think it was clever that they used Nate to go against him, since he can't actually choke him out because he's steel.
Yeah, I mean, that whole moment, I didn't realize right away that he was trying to choke him. I think he was also trying to stop him, and Nate was able to move. And that's where he has that funny line, but he was able to move, and you could see Dark kind of struggling to hang on to him. So I maybe question, what's going on there? Why can't Dark fully control Nate? Is it something to do with the weight? Because when he's steel, he's super heavy, or he's super dense? What's going on there?
It probably could have been a couple things. I mean, it depends on what he was trying to do. Because if he was trying to suck out his life force, if he's steel, then that wasn't going to work. If he was trying to choke him out, which was my original thought, he's steel and he can't actually do that because his powers prevent him from getting hurt. And then, but the weight could come into it too, because if he was trying to move him or something. Not that we've ever been given any indication that Nate's weight or density technically changes just because of the way he moves, but maybe it does. I don't know. So yeah, it just probably depends on what he was trying to do, but I definitely think the steel was what was kind of causing the trouble.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Cool.
Okay, and then here's the scene that inspired my rating.
Yeah, the Ghostbusters moment.
Yeah, so I liked that Leo and Rory step up and work together, and they take out Nora because they forced her to cross the streams. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Which caused just a massive backlash of power.
Yeah, and we've seen that happen before. Didn't the Flash do the same thing in season 1 to defeat them in the first place?
Yes, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I think he forced them to use their guns against each other or
That's
something.
right. Yeah, that was out in the middle of the street. He was running circles around them, and then he got them to shoot at each other, and the streams connected, and there was a huge blowback.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was a nice callback. I thought that was cool. I don't think she's dead, though. What do you think?
No, it probably just knocked her out, sent her flying somewhere, whatever. Yeah, I think that's all this team wants to do is kind of knock them out, because they're pretty powerful.
Yeah.
So, and Firestorm is not there right now, so they don't really have that. I mean, Sarah even admits, she's like, okay, just before that, she says, let's get out of here. We're totally outmatched. So
Exactly. Okay.
yeah.
Well, then, do you want to talk about Mollis a little bit? Because this falls next in line chronologically.
Yeah, well, this brings up more questions.
I know.
I mean, we see Dark and Nora. He grabs his little time travel rock and is about to vanish, and Sarah's like, "Not this time!" And she grabs them and goes with them, but not really. She didn't
Not
travel
really.
in time. She ends up, which apparently is some other dimension. And there's Mollis, who starts talking to her.
Yes.
So, I'm questioning, where or when does she end up? What was that? Was it another dimension? Is it where Mollis exists, out of time, out of everything? Did he pull her? Like, he saw that she was grabbing onto Dark, so did Mollis grab her and bring her to that spot? I have all questions about that. I have no answers. I don't know what that was.
I know, yeah. I have kind of the same questions. And because I was trying to figure out how she didn't end up going with them. So I'm wondering if maybe, because Mollis is clearly giving them the power to use those little rocks and travel through time. So maybe he pulled her into wherever he is, or maybe it was more of like almost an astral projection, kind of. I don't know. Maybe not, but it definitely had to be in. It could be like a different dimension, because maybe the time dimension or something. Because we know Mollis exists all throughout time, past, present, future. He just is.
Yeah.
So maybe he's kind of like just existing like in the time dimension, which isn't, a dimension that we see per se. It's just something we experience. That could be an interesting take.
Huh. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I hope they revisit it, or at least give us a few more answers to that.
I think they have to.
It came out of nowhere. So expected. I thought, oh my God, Sarah's going to see where they go. She's gone. She's separate from the team. They're not going to know where she is. How's she going to communicate with them? All this stuff ran through my head, and all of a sudden she's on her own in a smoky room. Like, what?
Yeah. My first thought was that was stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. I was reacting and not acting out of, smart moves.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd love to hear. I hope we can get a lot of post-show feedback, because there's a lot of questions raised by this episode, and we got a lot of time to kill until February. So, man, fans, just talk to us. We'll talk to you behind the scenes. Let's just try and figure something out. Maybe we'll put together a special bonus podcast if you guys can send us a whole bunch of theories and stuff to answer all these questions being presented. That'll help us pass the time. We can maybe do a little, I don't know, holiday episode or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
But anyway, so Mollis says something here about soon I will be free.
Yes. I guess that's how the darks come into play. I don't know how them messing up history ties into freeing Mollis, but it must somehow.
Well, again, see, yet another question is like, what does he mean? What is happening that is going to allow him to be free? Is it something that Dark is doing that we haven't seen yet? Does it have to do with all these anachronisms and the younger legends running into younger versions of themselves? What is happening that is allowing Mollis to soon be free? They haven't really showed us that.
No, they sure have not. Question after question after question.
Starting to feel like Lost here.
It is a little bit. But I guess, like, from this perspective, I guess it was kind of a good mid-season finale, because we're just asking tons and tons of questions about key things.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it that way.
That's a good way to think about it, sure.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to talk about Jackson Zari? And, well, this was when I said I wanted to talk more about Jackson's storyline.
Okay.
I had a lot of things to say. Because this ties into my nitpick. But I want to talk about it all here, and then I'll just restate what my nitpick is in the nitpick section. and then let you dive into yours more
Okay.
clearly.
Sure.
Okay.
So this is like a preemptive nitpick then.
Kind of, yeah.
All right.
All right. So I liked the bonding time between Jax and Zari. I thought that was pretty amusing. What I did not like was her advice that Jax should find a loophole, no matter how great an homage that is to Back to the Future.
Yeah, well, a couple things about that scene. First, I was kind of laughing. They're playing a really old version of Mortal Kombat, and I'm thinking, really? With all the technology you got around us, you can't be playing a little bit more of a modern day video game?
To be fair, it is classic. It's Mortal Kombat, and it fit the 1990s theme.
That's true.
Just
And that,
saying.
yeah. So yeah, anyway, it's just a funny little thing. But then I liked that she brings it up and she calls back to, she's like, find a loophole like I did with Helen of Troy. So they kind of are calling back to a few things. And yeah, the Back to the Future nods were all over this episode. It really was Back to the Future heavy in a lot of ways.
Yes.
But I agree with you. Like, I'm like, Zari, why are you trying to coerce him into breaking rules and laws that you maybe don't fully comprehend yet?
Exactly. And I think that's what bothered me. One, it bothered me that she was like giving that type of advice because she doesn't fully get how things work yet. And two, it bothered me that he took the advice. It's like, dude, you know what this does. You've been like working with this team and you understand the implications. So like the fact that he goes back to confront Stein and gives him the note, Stein now knows the date of his death, literally. I mean, he has put 2 and 2 together and he knows the date.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. The only way I counter it is that Jax is full of so much emotion and messed up right now that that's what he's acting on. He is not thinking straight.
Agreed. 100%. He is not thinking straight.
No,
Agreed.
It's like I already said. He hasn't even had a chance to grieve over losing Stein, and now he's facing a young Stein, and he realizes, like, I have a chance to save him. I can tell him to not go through with it and not, he's messed up, not thinking straight. I don't blame him for reacting on his emotions, even though us as viewers, it's like, come on, you should know by now. You've been through this for 3 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I loved the scenes when he goes back to confront Stein. I mean, they were very touching, but at the same time, it's a bad decision.
That was probably the best part of the episode and this is why I give props again to the guy playing young Stein. It was very heartfelt. It was, I felt for Jax because he had to say goodbye again. And like you just mentioned, Stein now knows when he's going to die. And I can't imagine having that knowledge. If I were to have that in my life now, knowing the date I'm going to die, it's
terrible.
It's terrifying. And because then what do you do with your life up until that point? Do you waste it trying to figure out ways to circumvent what's going to happen? Or do you go and enjoy your life and make the most of it? Or do you fall into depression and, go down the path of drinking and all that kind of stuff? Like I would never want to know that because that...
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't either. Anyway. Well, I do want to say I liked their final goodbye scene because I liked them shaking hands and then they pointedly had the fire in the background.
Yeah, that's a good catch.
So I have 2 thoughts on this.
Okay.
Okay. There's a lot of me that really, really, really wants it to be foreshadowing, but I'm afraid that if they do that I might actually be even more upset than I already was with the fact that they have killed Stein if they even later negate his death to bring back Firestorm. That would, I think, make me even more mad.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think Victor Garber's coming back, so I don't think that's going to happen. So I understand why you'd be mad because, it would just be like all for naught. What
Yes.
I do agree with what you said, though, is that they shook hands with the fire in the background. They're shaking hands in Stein's past, so it could just be a little bit of fun foreshadowing
Okay.
that to say, hey, you're good. This is going to be Firestorm down the road, and this is just a neat little visual.
Yeah, their final goodbye.
Yeah.
I
'Cause
hope that's it.
we all know that when they clasp hands, that's how they turn.
Hmm.
So they're not there yet, but like you said, it was a really cool, I don't know what you would call it, directing technique, just to show them shaking hands with the fire in the background and foreshadowing, future telling, paying homage, whatever you want to call it. It was a real nice little touch to say, like, this is what's going to happen for this version of Stein, because he's young right now. This is his path eventually between these two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the one last point, and we've talked about this a good deal already on our last podcast, but it's all going to tie back into Jax and his powers. So he's leaving the Waverider, and I'm not really surprised by that at all. I mean, for one, he feels completely lost without Martin. I mean, he needs to find his own way, and I liked that, that he needed to kind of go off and find himself.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's an out for the writers, in my opinion, because they don't have to be creative to find a use for him without any powers. I mean, they don't have to worry about him being liability, and they don't have to worry about explaining about why he's just acting as the ship's mechanic or whatever it is. So they don't have to explain the serum that magically works.
Yeah, all the questions that we had.
Exactly. So, and they didn't address this at all in this episode. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw this out there. And I know there's people all over the board on this, but I'm guessing it looks like the serum somehow magically stabilized the Matrix in him, even though he
never
take
took it. Or we just never saw him take it. Maybe they forgot to inform us by writing into the story somewhere that he took it.
Or that there were ever 2 vials when they only ever showed one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I felt like they implied that in the crossover, that only one of them had to take it, but for the life of me, I have no idea why that would even work. So,
yeah,
other than hand wavy, whatever, don't worry about this science.
I'm trying to wonder, with Stein taking it, it stabilized the Matrix within him and fooled it into thinking that they are still connected, so that when Stein dies, maybe the Matrix and the Firestorm Matrix dies with him, so that it no longer affects Jax. That's one way to look at it, I'm thinking.
That's, I think, where I'm leaning.
The other thing I'm thinking about is Jax was not the original other half of Stein. Stein became Firestorm with, what's his name from Flash?
Ronnie.
Yes. Ronnie Raymond. I was going to say Raymond. With Ronnie Raymond. And when Ronnie died, remember they had to go out of their way to find someone that was compatible. And then what did they have to do to Jax to make him fully compatible to Stein? They had to do something to him.
Did they? They went through like a couple people, and the first guy was nutso.
Yeah, well, he was all high on the power, but
yeah.
Yeah, they were. I can't remember what it was. We're gonna have to go back and look. It had something to do with chemical composition and whatever. Someone that got hit by the dark matter wave at the same time and whatever. They had to figure all out. But I thought they had to. Wasn't that when Firestorm was wearing that chest piece? They had to put it on him to allow them to. I can't remember the full details, but they had to do something to Jax to make him fully compatible with Stein, so that Stein could survive. So now I'm thinking maybe as a possible second angle that Jax not being the original half of Firestorm, with Stein dying with the Matrix within him, it somehow almost frees Jax of the Matrix because he wasn't originally created with it. So he's somehow able to just walk away from it and be okay.
Yeah, could be. I don't know. I don't remember the details of that
Yeah.
episode. We'd have to go back and watch.
That's a long way back. I mean,
It is a long way back.
that's in Flash episodes. Yeah, that's a way back.
Yeah.
All right. The other thing I wanted to say, when you were talking about Jax leaving the show and it's an easy out for the writers and stuff, it surprised me that he left immediately the next episode after Stein exited the show. I thought...
No, I didn't.
Well, I thought they might keep him around for an episode or 2 or 3 and we see him struggling with being on his own and we see his character kind of go in that direction. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm a liability to the team. I'm useless, whatever. I thought we would see more struggle and get to see him play on his own for a little bit. So to write him off immediately the next episode, it did surprise me a little bit because it gave us no chance to see him develop, to see him grieve, to see him move past this and try. It was just immediately, I'm leaving too.
Yeah, I'm honestly quite over this storyline at this point. So I definitely would not say like I called it. Like I didn't quote see it coming, but I was not surprised when he left at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
surprised, not surprised. Yeah, I'm kind of in the fence on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Tough call.
Yeah. So
well, the last scene of the episode is Sarah coming back on the ship after she says goodbye.
It is.
And there's somebody lurking in the darkness of the Waverider.
Sure is. I was like, okay, this episode is almost over. Where is Constantine? He has to come in.
Did you? Oh, you knew he was coming this episode?
I did not know he was coming this episode, but I was like, they have to introduce him at some point. Like, when are they going to do it? And I don't know. I just felt like it needed to be soon. And so I was very happy when I saw him at the end of this episode. I was like, there it is. It's going to tie in.
Well, and here's the thing. Like, they're writing off a couple of characters and they're bringing in Constantine. Like, Zari's kind of taking the place of Stein, essentially like just the number count. And now we got Constantine stepping in just as Jax leaves. So I don't know the details behind Constantine, if he's supposed to be a full-on member, if he's only going to be here for a couple episodes to finish the season off, to defeat Mollis.
No.
I don't know what's going on. Do you know?
I don't. And I think he's going to have to stick around through the end of the season, right? Because we need him, I'm assuming, against Mollis.
Mm-hmm.
Because, well, we need magic. And, I mean, we sort of have magic with Amaya and Zari, but not like that kind of level of magic. So that's why I really felt like we're going to need Constantine through the end of the season.
Well, Amaya and Zari can fight off Mollis's minions, like, with all the totems and stuff like that. That's kind of their purpose. But Mollis himself is dark magic, and nobody understands dark magic except Constantine. So that's where he fits in. And I can see him only finishing out the season to help them defeat Mollis. I don't think he'll be around after that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, we've talked about Constantine before. He's been discussed on Arrow and whatever. And I tried watching the show Constantine, and I didn't like it. It was too dark, too gross. I wasn't expecting it to be as demon heavy and violent and bloody as it was, being another comic book kind of show. And I'm not really into a lot of that stuff. That's a little bit too much for me. So I'm not really a big fan of his. And even when he showed up on Arrow, I was like, yeah, because it was in a season of Arrow we weren't really happy with anyway, all the magic on Arrow. And I mean, sure.
I didn't like it on Arrow. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not excited about him being on our show. I have no connection to this guy, this character, or anything. It fits the storyline for now, and I hope it comes out cool. I hope he ends up being really cool, and I find a way to like him and everything, but I wasn't looking forward to it. There was no excitement about him. So when I saw him at the end of this episode, I was like, oh, all right. Yeah, that's about all it got out of me.
Yeah. Well, I think the only reason I'm excited is just because it further develops and creates a believable adversary against Mollis and the Darks, because otherwise it's Arrow season 4, whatever season that was, all over again, which I didn't care for. So That's why I'm excited.
I mean, I don't even know what Constantine can do. I don't know what his powers is other than understanding dark magic. I don't know if he can do anything himself. I mean, he knows incantations and how to weave, spell glyphs on the floor or whatever, but I don't know. I think that's all he is just someone who's researched it a lot and, can do those, like make a circle of salt and stand inside it to protect yourself from demons, that kind of stuff. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see. That's part of why he's on the show. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, so we'll find out.
All right. Nitpicks. How's that?
Let's get into it.
All right.
Form of water.
Well, you kick it off. We kind of talked a bit about it, but what's your actual nitpick?
All right. My actual nitpick was that Jax goes back again. Dude, how much are you going to mess with history? I mean, it just bothered me. Like, has breaking time taught him nothing?
Yeah. Yeah. And that could be a good reason for why he has to go. If he's not learning anything, he's kind of going backwards on all his training. It's like, at this point, it's going to get annoying and it's going to make our show, I mean, not that it's totally believable, but it just makes it, I don't want it to be dumb. Our show is, it's on the silly side, but it's also witty and it's smart and it's fun. And the writing has been so good a lot of the time. Yeah. So do not make our show stupid by doing absolutely abysmal things with the Beebo doll like you did this episode, and do not make our characters dumb when they have been smarter than that before.
I know, yeah, and I get what you're saying, like with the whole grief angle. I get that, but I feel like he's got enough experience that he knows the costs. I mean, it's not really a loophole. I mean, it's not. He could change everything by telling Martin Stein like when he's going to die. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, and the funny you say loophole, because that's the other thing that was bugging me. Yes, Zari found a loophole because Helen of Troy disappears during the war. Nobody knows what happened to her. It's just all speculation. So yeah, she made her disappear and she could live out her life on the Wonder Woman's island, Themyscira. Yeah. And it's fine. That's a good loophole. But this was not really a loophole. It's Back to the Future, give you a letter, tell you what your future's going to be so you can avoid it. That's directly interfering with someone's future.
Yeah, no, like I said, as much as I love the Back to the Future reference, oh man, that was dumb.
Yeah. Well, and anyway. Even young Stein even said that. He's like, I've seen Back to the Future.
Exactly.
I know better than this, yeah. So.
Like, I know. He's like, I know exactly what this is. Anyway, why don't you get into your nitpicks, because I see you have several.
Well, it's not like this whole episode wasn't bothering me. I apologize for not really enjoying this one, but there were three, and we kind of touched on them a little bit, but there's three glaring things in this episode that bugged me more than anything, that made this episode such a mess, poorly written and executed. Yeah, so number one, Snart and the puppet therapy. Wow, that really floored me. It was out of taste. It was dumb. It ruined the coolness of Snart. I would have quit the show too after having to act scenes out like that. I could not believe that this is what they're doing to Leonard Snart, a character that we absolutely love and have been missing him so much. They're making him act out a scene with a big puppet. It was beyond ridiculous, not even funny. It made me feel like Rory wanting to punch the snot out of the whole idea.
Yeah, like I said, I went back and forth on the puppet scene, but I did. What did it for me was just everybody's reaction to the puppet.
Yeah.
Kind of like everything from "Are you serious?" to like completely embracing it to beating the crap out of it. So.
Yeah, and I agree with you. After you said all that, I agree with you for that half of the scene, but for Snart's half of the scene, utterly unacceptable. No, don't do that to Snart. Like, seriously, don't do that to Snart. I would have left the show too. I'm not kidding. That was like bad. Anyway, number two. This right off the beginning as well, they come into this show starting with such a cool idea and time period, the Vikings, and they actually made it feel like the other TV show, The Vikings, so much so that some of the actors even looked like the Viking characters, especially Agent Sharpe. When she dressed up, she looked like one of the female Vikings on the TV show. One of the actors, I was like, wow, okay, Vikings. I love the Vikings. I love that other show, so I love this time period. I love the history behind it. The whole idea of them discovering North America first, 400 and something years before Columbus. I thought, okay, this is going to be fun. Like, how many times did I say way back in season 1, I want this show to go to some cool time periods. So here I was, excited, and then they drop the bomb with that Beebo doll, ruining the entire thing. I was so disappointed. It completely pulled me out of any cool feeling, any cool factor of us being in the Viking era. I was completely disappointed.
I got nothing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You were disappointed.
Number 3, right at the end of the episode, we actually didn't even say it, which is kind of cool. We somehow magically saved it for this nitpick. Sarah vanishes when she grabs Dark and ends up in this smoky dimension, which we found out it's another dimension, and Mullis is talking to her. How the heck, where, when, and whatever she does, how does Sharpe reach through to this other dimension and pull Sarah out? How does she have a clue where she is? How does she is she able to even reach into anything? Like, what? Explain that to me. There's no possible way she has any idea or any technical know-how or anything to be able to just reach in and pull Sarah out of wherever she is. There's no way you can answer that for me.
I don't know. I did kind of have like a small theory, because you're right, that was kind of bugging me. And then the entire time that Sarah was in that like extra dimension or whatever it is, what the other thing that was bugging me was kind of like the Eye of Sauron kind of behind her. Do you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, so did Sarah, that's why I was trying to figure out if she was actually physically there, or if it was kind of like an astral projection or some like combination of the two, where like there was still a hole and potentially Agent Sharpe like reached through the hole and pulled her back. I don't really know. That's like literally the only possible thing I can think of. But it was a very confusing scene, and I was just like, how did she get here? How did they bring her back? What? Because you're right, there's no way Sharpe could have known where she was to use the little time courier, and if she's not anywhere in real time, how would the time courier work?
Well, yeah, she can't use the watch to open up a doorway to her because she doesn't know where she is.
Yeah, exactly.
Sarah, they used that magical rock to disappear, and we saw them disappear. Sarah ended up somewhere else. So there's just no way. But you actually did pretty good. I thought 100% without a doubt, no one is going to have an answer for me for that. And you actually did pretty good by using that Lord of the Rings reference that maybe Sarah didn't fully disappear. That's a pretty good answer. Holy crap. Good job. But still, because there's no other possibility. There's no way.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It drove me bananas. And yeah, again, a lot of things like that just took me right out of this episode, and it was really hard for me to, like I said, I couldn't find any emotion by the end of it because I was not part of this episode at all.
No.
But let's get to something that is fun, something that we love to do, and do the quotes of the week.
Sounds good.
Shape out an eagle!
All right, well, we're supposed to have winners from the crossover episode.
We are supposed to have winners from the crossover episode, but someone, me, forgot to post the poll. So I did it tonight. So as of the time everyone is listening, they've been out there for a few days, but go ahead and vote on the quotes from Crisis on Earth X, and then when we'll put these ones out there, I promise we'll put these ones out there, and then you can vote on these ones as well, and maybe we'll do a quotes episode or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we can, if we get enough to talk about, if people give us some answers to some of these questions from this episode, we could include the winning quotes from the crossover in there. Because, I mean, the crossover is such a big event. I don't want to miss it. We should talk about the quotes again and why the winners won and stuff. I think it'd be fun to revisit that. So
for sure.
Yeah, so let's get into this week's funny quotes. What you got for us?
The first one is, who's the therapist?
Let's hear it again.
What would you like to say to me, Nathaniel?
Still a little too nasally. Remember, you speak very precisely.
This is therapy, not acting class.
Nice. That's the right level of frustration. That's very Stein. Now just do it with the puppet.
Like I said, it was just Nate being Nate.
Just Nate being Nate. Yeah, that's fine. Do it with the puppet.
Yep.
All right, what's the next one?
Barkeeper.
The beer tastes like sewage water.
Was that a question, Mr. Rory?
I'll get smart, lady.
Exactly. Sassy, snarky Gideon.
Exactly. I loved, there was another scene, and it's not a good quote because it's very visual, but when he takes a sip of his beer and he like looks at it weird, mm-hmm. and he's like, what's wrong with this beer? It's very funny.
Mick and his beer.
Mm-hmm.
All right, number 3.
Something is off here.
Well, thank you. But my team and we have it under control.
I hope so, because the legends fixing a level 12 under normal circumstances would be a Beebo Day miracle.
Did you just say Beebo Day?
December 25th, Beebo Day, when families exchange gifts and sing silly songs and discover that they can no longer live under the same roof. Beebo Day is part of the anachronism, isn't it?
Yeah.
Never felt right.
Never felt right.
She played that so well. That was actually pretty funny.
She did. It was good.
All right. What's our last funny one for this week for our mid-season finale?
It's a dark plan.
You've come alone.
Not exactly.
Doc will have some sort of quip.
Something evil, but not too mustache twirly.
What, are you gonna huff and puff till you blow my house in?
What's the matter? Performance anxiety?
I liked the scenes. They made me laugh.
Yeah, no, they were fun scenes for sure. That was actually more of a funny scene instead of so much of a quote. So good job.
It was. Picked a whole scene. Woo!
No, that was fun. It was good stuff.
Cool. Well, what do you have this week for our serious scenes?
I'm going to kick it off with one called Post Emotions.
Yeah, but it's great. I mean, how can we not tell him?
Because what if knowing about his death makes young Marty choose not to create the Firestorm Matrix, or meet you, or step foot on the ship? He never would have wanted you to risk the present to save him in the past.
And how exactly do you know what he would have wanted, Ray? You weren't psychically connected to him for 3 years.
Yeah, that's just Jack's really struggling, and I think no matter what anyone was saying to him, he was being offended by it.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah.
And that kind of really laid out exactly what was going on.
Exactly. He's feeling like no one could possibly understand what or feel the same way as he's feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do we have next?
Next is called Heat and Cold.
Was that guttural sound your response?
What?
My heartfelt confession.
I don't care. I wasn't listening.
Well, Mick Rory I knew did care. And he did listen.
He was the kindest, most selfless person I've ever met.
A far cry from the crude, alcoholic, oafish waste of space before me. I'm a disappointment. Well, the Leonard Snort that I knew was a cold, ruthless criminal who didn't say boo about my drinking because he knew I could get the job done. I don't like you. You don't fit in. Why don't you go back to that Nazi hellhole you call home? Well, if that's how you feel, then I'll leave as soon as we return from Vinland. Good.
Aw, like I guess in a sense it's kind of funny to listen to, but it just kind of sucked to watch those two be at each other when we've been wanting them to be back together since season 1, and now they're here and they hate each other.
I know, but I loved it because Rory said what we were all thinking. You don't fit in.
Yeah. I guess, yeah. Jeez.
All right. What do we have next?
Well, we have to pay homage to really what ended up happening this episode. So this next clip, I think, to me, is where all the feels really started kicking in. And this one especially really got to me. Not even after the second time watching, but when I was editing these clips, yeah, okay, this one did it. This is a good one. So this one is called My Second Goodbye.
The letter. You never read it. That's because I already burned it. What?
I was tempted. To be sure, I thought a lot about that date. November 28, 2017. I'll be 67 then. I'll have had adventures. Watched my daughter grow up. And I'll have made a friend who was willing to risk far, far too much for me.
No, I'm trying to save you.
You need to let me go. We both know you shouldn't be here. I may have a life ahead of me, but to you, I'm a ghost.
Oh,
I'm not gonna cheat death, Jefferson. None of us live forever. And yet I clearly live a wonderful life with many chapters. And if I had one wish, it wouldn't be for me to prolong my life. It would be for you to live yours and to have all the happiness you deserve.
Goodbye, Gray.
Goodbye, Jefferson.
Yep, that's the feels for sure.
Yeah, it was a good scene.
It
was a good scene.
Yeah, and like I said, that actor playing young Stein, he really did a good job because he drew on the emotion, and just listening to him, the way he expressed himself, like you know, I obviously live a good life with people that love me and full of adventure. Like you go live your life. Let me go. It's like, oh my God, like
I know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so there's our show pulling on the emotions again, because they can do it.
They can. Well, what's our last scene?
Well, the last one, I mean, it's following up the way we ended the crossover. A very powerful moment. This one maybe not as emotional, but we bid farewell to another. And that is what I called this clip.
When Gray first dragged me on board this ship, I thought it was the last place that I wanted to be. I mean, you were all a bunch of screw-ups, B-list superheroes, washed up bank robbers, no offense.
It's true.
But the thing is, when you get a bunch of broken pieces and you put them all together the right way, it makes something new. And suddenly, they don't feel so broken anymore. And I'm pretty sure that's what a family is. So, I don't know what happens next, but I know I'll always have a family here with you guys.
That's right,
You're
straight.
right, little brother. Oh, wait.
Cheers. Well, it's been an honor, Captain.
Come here.
Hey. I'm sure it's only gonna be a matter of time before some Aztecs with jetpacks invade Central City, so...
And the honor's been all mine.
You know, that's not a bad send-off for Jax. It's actually pretty nice.
Yeah. No, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah. And there you go. That's the serious stuff I could pull from this episode.
Well, there were some good choices.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into some final finale feedback.
Yay.
Holy Twin Powers, activate!
I should have said it's feedback.
Feedback.
all the sick people is tough to sing, huh?
Yep.
Think we're doing okay. If hopefully Legendaires haven't taken too much notice that we're still hanging on, not 100% here yet, but we wanted to get this episode out to you guys.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Where do you want to start?
Well, we're going to kick it off with a voicemail from someone we haven't heard from in a little bit, I guess. There's Patty Spivot. Here she is.
Hey guys, it's Patty Spivot calling in. Help me, please. What just happened? What just happened? Like, even for our show, which is funny and goofy and silly, what on earth just happened? I'm really looking forward to hearing what you guys think about the episode and analyzing some of it. I'm at a loss, kind of. The only thing I could sort of see as a plot driver for the season was maybe giving Jax a little bit of closure, because he got to at least try to help his friend, try to save Stein, attempted, although kind of an awful thing to do, because now Stein has to live his whole life knowing what day he's going to die. So that's kind of, that probably didn't occur to him. But the only other thing I saw developing was clearly a Sarah and Agent Sharpe thing is going to be happening in the future. That's pretty obvious. I don't know what they were doing with the whole Leonard Snart camp counselor thing. That was just bizarre to me. The puppet and the what? I don't know. I don't understand any of the episode. Like, what? I did really think it was awesome to see Captain Cold and Heatwave in action again. Those two are just, I still think they need their own show. I think they're just awesome. They're my favorite part of the whole show, actually. And it was really cool to see Heatwave back in his element as well. But I don't know what they're doing. I'm stoked that Snart is back, because he's my favorite character for sure. But his character is so different, and I don't know what to even say. So I just thought I'd call in and express my confusion. I can't even rate the thing. Anyway, I'll sign off now, and I'm looking forward to whenever we're back in the new year. Hopefully they get her back on the rails. That'd be good. Anyways, have a good Christmas, you guys, and we'll talk to you next year. Patty Spivot out.
She's adorable. You can tell by her reaction that's exactly what we were feeling. It's kind of a, what is going on kind of episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, but kind of. I mean, hopefully we gave her a few answers. I know we didn't really figure a lot of it out, but hopefully we gave her some things to think about. And it was funny that she was on very similar tracks as we were for a lot of it.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
All right, next up we got an email from our friend Arcphase, and he says, "Greetings, Wonder Twins. We got to see the young Martin Stein again this week in 1992, and the results of their previous encounter is still remembered. We know of Ray being knighted in Camelot, a monument exists of Rory, but this knowledge of the legends time travels by young Stein surely must have affected the older Stein's action in one way or another. For example, how Stein was initially disliking the idea of Jax being the other half of Firestorm before in The Flash. Would that attitude have changed since he met Jax earlier on in time?" Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Good question. And this calls back to you complaining about Jax continually going back and messing with things.
Yeah.
Yes. And he says, time traveling is always such a messy but fun thing to play with. Yeah. Anyways, much of this episode seemed to be dealing with the loss of Stein and the departure of the remaining half of Firestorm. With Jax gone, who's going to do maintenance on the Waverider? That's a question we forgot to ask. Who is?
Who's the new ship's mechanic? I'm going to go with Ray Palmer.
Yeah, I guess he'd be the next one in line for sure. Of course, with the losses, we also gained Leo. His interactions so far seem very limited to Mick, and his therapy session was a bit weird, especially with the Stein puppet. Yeah, weird is an understatement. I wonder if they'll keep him as a regular or if he'll end up leaving halfway through the next season. We did, however, get to see the cold gun and heat gun cross streams and take out Eleanor. Yeah, we don't know how long he's going to stay or if he's going to be on the show all the way through. That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I don't know if you want me to spoil it or not. I don't think he's going to make it all the way to the end because they haven't even filmed the rest of the episodes, and Wentworth Miller has already said his farewell and thank you to everybody, yada, yada, yada. So that kind of tells me he's only got a couple episodes in him that he just finished filming.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so he finishes off. Jumping to the end, we will be getting Constantine next season with the same question of if he will be a regular as well. I wonder if the little girl he was talking about is a younger Sarah and the demon is Mollis. And perhaps this had something to do with Sarah entering the alternate dimension. Oh, that's right. Someone else on the Facebook page questioned something about the younger girl being terrorized by a demon being Sarah. Is there something that happened in Constantine that we don't know about? Was that the whole plot idea of season 1 of Constantine, was he was trying to help a girl?
I don't know if it was the whole season 1, but I'm thinking, and I did not watch this, so I don't know if it's correct or not, that it might have been the pilot. But what he said was that a demon has possessed a young girl and knows your name, Sarah Lance. Is what he said.
So does that mean it's the same girl or not? Yeah, that's
I don't think it's a younger version of Sarah, but I do find it interesting that it is tying into her character.
Interesting.
Kind of, like we had young Martin Stein and the Dominator with young Ray and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, but you know what? That could actually be pretty cool because Sarah's been our captain for 2 seasons now. It'd be cool to have something actually revolve around her.
Yeah.
And not Rip for a change.
That's true.
Cool.
So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. More to find out next season. Happy Beebo Day to everyone and hope to hear you all again next year. That's a dark phase. You are no longer part of the show.
You did it. You mentioned Beebo.
My God. No, just kidding. Anyway, thanks for that email. Next, we got one from Christy. You can take this one.
All right. Christy says, the exit of Jax was handled weirdly to me. He left with more of a half-hearted whimper instead of a triumphant exit like Stein got. I actually didn't think we'd lose him as well, but I guess there wasn't much more to do with that character once you remove the Firestorm element. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The Viking characters didn't do anything for me in this episode. Having them worship a toy and in turn want to kill people just made them seem really dumb.
Yep.
I did get a good laugh out of Dark arriving as Odin of Asgard. Can't quite figure out the logic of constantly putting Marvel references in these shows, but at least it's entertaining.
That's true. They are constantly calling back to Marvel when they're supposed to be bitter rivals and not liking each other, and yet DC seems to continually do that. So I'm guessing it's the show writers are fans of everything. So
yeah, probably. I didn't think this episode would rival the crossover at all, but I was expecting something better than what we got, especially for a mid-season finale. At least we have Constantine coming next year. I never watched his TV show, but I did enjoy him on that one episode of Arrow where he revived Sarah. Christy.
Yeah. Well, you're with us. We didn't watch it either, so we'll have to see what they're going to do with him.
Yeah, we shall see. And I actually did not enjoy him on the episode of Arrow, so I'm hoping they do something more / better with his character.
Yeah, me too. We'll have to see. But thank you, Christy. Our last feedback, and fittingly, is a voicemail from Green Butterfly. And I know she's always got something fun to say. Let's end this whole thing with her positiveness.
Hi, this is your eye in the sky green butterfly. All in all, this episode was pretty silly and pretty great all at once. I love that Sarah wants to protect her team at all costs, not willing to suffer another loss, because she is a great captain. But I also love that her team is unwilling to let her go as a lone assassin. This bond is what makes the legend so awesome. Speaking of bonds, I don't want Jax to leave. I didn't really want him to drink the gold liquid and become Sticky Man. That didn't sound very cool. But my hopes for Jax was that Ray would come up with some sort of suit or accessories, not the same as his, but unique to Jax, to help him function as a legend, regardless of the loss of his firestorm powers. I'm very excited for February when our show returns. People complained about the presence of magic on Arrow, but I think magic here on Legends will be fantastic. I mean, time travel, flashy things, door portals. We're already dealing with magic in this universe, so bring on more magic. That's awesome. Damien Dark's wig in this episode, less awesome. Did you catch it? It was great. When young Martin was shooting the toy arrow to try to get the Beebo off the top of the shelf in the toy store, they played Oliver's Arrow music. So perfect. I hope you all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, Legendaires. Talk to you soon. I gotta go finish my Christmas shopping at Toys R We. Toys R We. I see what you did there. Very funny. Happy holidays. Green Butterfly out.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
That's our butterfly. Way to go, as always. Thanks for that fabulous positive feedback. Yeah, she's funny.
Yeah, I think Dark stole Oliver's island wig.
Possibly, yeah. So much. Well, we want to just say thank you to all our feedbackers for this week, and thanks to all of you all season long for continuing to give us great feedback, and lots of it all the time, guys. We totally appreciate it.
Yeah, it makes the show a lot of fun.
Yeah, so if you want to join these fine people the way they did that, this is how you can get to doing that.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to tomorrowslegends@gmail.com. That's spelled with one R. You can also reach us on Twitter at tomorrowslegends, also with one R. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/tomorrowslegends and become part of the community.
All right, Harley. That does it for us for this mid-season finale.
It sure does.
Wow, February 12th. That's going to seem like a long time.
It is. It's a long ways away.
Well, we'll have to see if we can figure something out over the holidays. I mean, everyone's going to be busy with family and stuff. I'm not going to be listening to podcasts, but we might still come back for a little quick one. And if people do want to talk to us, please reach out to us. I mean, there's the Facebook page. You can reach me and Harley both on Twitter. I'm at CyberTiger17, and I think you're at Jess in Atlanta.
That's me.
All right, so, reach out to us, talk to us. The other thing I want to let people know is I know it's been like August, September since I last talked about my new show, Cybercast, that I've been preparing. I have not been able to get to it. It's been such a busy season, but I do have 3 episodes recorded. Yay. I'm just working on, I'm just working on like website stuff and whatever, and trying to land a couple more guests to come on with me, but it is ready to go, so I'm hoping over the holidays with the time off I have, I'll actually get to launch it, so look for that. I'll definitely let everybody know. For now, you can go to my Facebook page, Cybercast, and find it there, but keep an eye out for that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's it. We wish everybody Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate or believe in. Have a great one out there, guys. This is The Flash, signing off.
And this is Harley Quinn. I'm out.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network. Find our podcast in iTunes. You can leave us a rating and review. We'd love that. As well, we can now be found in Google Play Music.